We'll see how far we get in this next part of the Can't Find It cure. Now, when we left off, Morton and Enterprise, his friend, had made a terrible mess in the living room of popcorn. Ooh, was Mom happy? No. It took her about an hour to vacuum up all the popcorn, and about 3 hours to get the grease stains off her new gray carpet, and about 2 seconds to find the electric popcorn popper, exactly where she had told Morton it was. When Mr. Heatherwick came home, starving and hoping for an apple pie or some fresh hot chocolate cake, he found his wife bawling. Bawling's another word for crying very hard in the kitchen. "This is the worst day I've ever had, and I'm sure Morton is going blind." "Oh my, how awful. Where is he?" "He's up in his room." So Mr. Heatherwick tore up the stairs and burst in on Morton, who was carefully finishing his painting of a cowboy the cowboy picture roping a steer. "Hey, hi, Dad." He didn't look up. "Oh, son, that's a wonderful painting, but how do you do it? Do you just feel around with your fingers?" "Well, of course not. I just look at it and paint it." "You look at it? Can you see?" "Of course I can see, Dad. I've got the best eyesight in our room at school. The nurse said so." So Mr. Heatherwick went downstairs and told Mrs. Heatherwick that Morton had the best eyesight in school, and Mrs. Heatherwick told him all about her thimble. She told him about her comb, and Tagalong's brush and comb, and the turpentine, and the popcorn popper, and the croquet balls. "Well, let me see if he can find a switch." "Oh, no, not that. Not physical punishment, Justin. There just must be a better way." "Well, then what about Mrs. Piggle Wiggle?" "Oh, that's it. That's the answer. I'll call her right now." Friday morning, just when Morton was due to arrive, Nels Larson came galloping up on Charlie, his old white horse, and told Mrs. Piggle Wiggle that he had seen a huge coyote in his wheat field. "He's after something. Has Arbutus had her calf yet?" "Well, I don't think so," said Mrs. Piggle Wiggle. "I tried to bring her in the barn last night to give her some hay, but she wouldn't come. She didn't have any calf with her, though. I watched her for a while. She's in the middle section of the pasture, the one with the stream running through it." "Well, if I were you, I'd keep an eye on her. You know how cows are about hiding their calves. If she wouldn't come in the barn last night, the chances are she has had her calf already and she's hiding it. That old coyote knows it too, and as soon as I saw him, I went up to the house and got my gun. But of course he had gone by the time I got back. They're the sneakiest animals there are." Just then Morton's father drove up and delivered Morton. "I'm certainly glad to see you," said Mrs. Piggle Wiggle, hugging Morton. "I need somebody with sharp eyes and fast legs. Well, especially faster than mine." "Well, why?" "Because Mr. Larson here, he saw a coyote in his wheat field, and we think that Arbutus has had her calf and has hidden her. If the coyote finds the calf before we do, he'll kill it." "Oh, don't worry, Mrs. Piggle Wiggle. I'll find that old calf for you." "Well, goodbye, Dad. I got work to do." "Goodbye, son. Be good and help Mrs. Piggle Wiggle all you can, please." "Oh, of course I will." He dropped his suitcase and his bag of games, his bow, his arrow, his paint box, and his drawing paper in a heap on the back steps. Then, stripping off his jacket and throwing it on top of the other things, he said, "Now, where'd you say that old calf might be, Mrs. Piggle Wiggle?" "Here, get up here with me," said Nels, and he reached down his hand for Morton's. "I'll ride you over and show you." "Yipes! Hey, Dad, look at me! I'm riding horseback, just like a cowboy." Giddy up, said Nels, and off he went with Morton sitting astride the horse in front of him, and Charlie slowly meandered off in the direction of the wheat field. After he had shown Morton where the coyote had been, Nels took him to the middle pasture where Arbutus was. They got off Charlie the horse and walked over to Arbutus, who was by the north fence eating clover. "Hi, old girl," Nels said, and he patted her side. Arbutus blinked her eyes and chewed her clover. "Oh, she's pretty. Do you think I can learn to milk her?" "Sure, of course, but you better find her calf first. When you do find it, would you please tell me and I'll carry it up to the barn?" Nels rode away on Charlie, and Morton sat down in the clover by Arbutus and thought about the calf. "I'd like to have a little calf of my very own. I'd like to have it sleep with me and take it to school with me, just like a dog. I'd name it Pal, and when it grew up and was a dangerous bull, I'd ride it in the rodeo." While Morton was busy with all those thoughts, Arbutus lay down and began to chew her cud. Do you remember what chewing your cud means? It means she'd chew her food and swallowed it, and then she'd burp it back up and chew it again. I'm glad I don't have to do that. But that's what sheep do. Remember we talked about that a long time ago? "You're a nice old girl," he said to Arbutus as he sat by her. "I won't let any old coyote get to your calf. I'll find it, and then we'll put it out in the barn where it's safe." Arbutus closed her eyes as Morton talked to her. While he had been talking, Morton had been running his fingers through the clover, and he felt something round and kind of soft. He looked down and saw that he had found a fat, red, wild strawberry. Ooh, he put it in his mouth. It was warm and sweet and delicious. "Oh, boy, wild strawberries! I'll bring some back to Mrs. Piggle Wiggle." And he crawled around on his hands and knees and began to pick the little strawberries and put them in a handkerchief. He had about a cupful when he looked up and saw a small brown rabbit watching him. "Hi, little bunny!" And he sat back on his heels and absent-mindedly put a handful of the strawberries into his mouth. The bunny hopped away. Morton followed him. Then the bunny disappeared down a hole near the log. Morton put his hand way down in the hole, but he couldn't feel anything but dirt. He was quite disappointed and rather tired, so he lay down on the grass on his back and looked at the sky. The big chicken hawk was flying around in the clear spring sky. He moved slowly in big circles, and then a meadowlark began to sing. He stood on the fence post and tossed his song way up into the air. The clear, sweet notes floated around in the sunshine like soap bubbles. A little beetle, shiny and black like licorice, crawled over Morton's finger and went charging into the deep grass. "Oh, I sure like to live out here in the country. I guess I'll go down to the stream and find a willow tree. I feel like making a willow whistle." So Morton went down to the stream and he found a willow tree. He found a big, fat green frog, a little yellow water snake, 2 crickets, and a handful of periwinkle flowers. He put the periwinkles in his handkerchief with... Val just jumped up on my lap. There she is. And I lost my place. Hold on a second here. Let's see. He put the periwinkles in his handkerchief with the rather squished strawberries. He put the green frog inside his shirt. He put the crickets in his back pocket, and he carried the snake. "Boy, Mrs. Piggle Wiggle would be so glad!" And he took off across the pasture toward home. Of course, when he tried to go under the fence, the crickets got in the way out of his pocket. He chased them for a little while and finally gave up. Now the sun was pretty hot, and anywhere there were lots of crickets. He sat down in the shade of a maple tree and took out Pal, his frog. He had forgotten all about Pal, the little calf that he was supposed to find. Pal the frog was a beautiful shade of green with a yellow stomach. He swelled up his throat and blinked his eyes at Morton. And Morton said, When we get home, I'll make you a little bed out of a matchbox and you can sleep in my room. I'll catch flies for you and you can swim in the watering trough." And Pal said, "Ah." My, but it was a peaceful afternoon there under the maple tree. Morton closed his eyes. A little breeze riffled through his hair and he fell fast asleep. When he woke, it was afternoon. Pal was gone and he was very hungry. Grabbing up the handkerchief with the periwinkle flowers and the squashed strawberries in it, he ran across the field, over the hill, through the little woods, up to the barn, and onto Mrs. Piggle Wiggle's back porch. She was in the kitchen baking peanut butter cookies. "Oh, Morton, you wonderful boy, you found the calf. I knew you would."